Ethan Cole had always believed miracles hid in plain sight, and that morning, standing beneath the burning desert sun with Ranger, his 6-year-old German shepherd, at his side, he felt the whisper of possibility. The shack before him looked as abandoned as the sand-blasted sign advertised, its paint peeling, the roof sagging under decades of neglect, but something in the stillness told him it was more than it seemed. Ranger sniffed the cracked threshold, tail flicking, ears perked like a silent alarm, sensing a presence Ethan could not yet understand. He stepped inside, boots stirring up decades of dust, the air thick with the scent of aged wood and desert heat, and the floor groaned under his weight, each board telling the story of forgotten hands and untold years. Sunlight slanted through gaps in the walls, casting thin, golden ribbons across scattered debris and faded furniture, and Ethan's eyes traced the lines of the shack, noting the small, almost invisible cracks, the way the floor tilted ever so slightly toward the back corner, like the building itself had been guiding him. Ranger padded silently ahead, nose low, suddenly freezing near a warped plank that protruded from the floor just a few inches, the dog's amber eyes fixed and alert. Ethan crouched, running his calloused fingers over the rough wood, feeling an almost imperceptible vibration, a hum beneath the desert quiet that made his heart hitch. The air seemed to shift around him, carrying a faint metallic tang that drew his curiosity deeper, and without hesitation, he lifted the plank, revealing a narrow trapdoor hidden beneath layers of sand and dust, its hinges stiff but intact. The opening exhaled a cool, shadowy breath, and Ranger stepped forward, pressing his paw against the threshold as if granting permission, urging Ethan to follow. The descent was slow, the walls lined with rough-hewn stone that glimmered faintly in the dim light, the scent of earth and metal mingling in a way that made Ethan's pulse quicken. Each step echoed softly, a rhythm that seemed to synchronize with his own heartbeat, anticipation and wonder coiling together as they moved deeper. At the bottom, a faint glow caught his eye, stacks of coins, jars of artifacts, and bundles of aged papers glimmering under a stray beam of sunlight from above, the remnants of a secret long hidden beneath the desert floor. Ethan's breath caught, a mixture of awe and disbelief, as Ranger nudged his hand, amber eyes steady, silently affirming what Ethan already knew. They had uncovered something extraordinary, a treasure untouched by time, a hidden world beneath a $1 shack, and in that quiet revelation, the desert sun outside seemed to shine brighter, as if acknowledging the miracle they had just found together. Ethan Cole took a slow, steady breath, letting the cool air of the hidden tunnel settle around him, the soft echoes of Ranger's paws against the stone floor creating a rhythm that matched the steady beat of his heart. Dust motes danced in the faint light that streamed through cracks above, and the scent of ancient wood and metal clung to every surface, telling stories of hands that had long since vanished. He moved carefully, each step measured, mindful of the fragile balance between discovery and respect, and Ranger padded beside him, silent but alert, eyes scanning shadows as though reading a language Ethan could not yet understand. The walls were lined with crates and weathered trunks, each sealed with rusted clasps, their contents hidden but promising, and Ethan's fingers traced the edges of the containers, feeling the cool smoothness of metal and the roughness of aged wood. A faint breeze whispered through the tunnel, carrying a dry, earthy scent that reminded him of the desert above, and he realized that this space had been waiting patiently, untouched by time, for someone to see it, for someone to understand. Shadowed corners revealed hints of what lay beyond. The glimmer of coins stacked carefully, the sharp reflection of glass bottles filled with liquids long preserved, the delicate shine of intricate jewelry, each piece catching the faint light and sending tiny sparks across the walls. Ethan's mind raced with questions. Who had placed these treasures here? Why had they been hidden beneath this unassuming shack? And yet, amidst the wonder, a calm settled over him, a sense that he was meant to find this, that the universe had nudged him to this place for reasons he could not yet comprehend. Ranger let out a low, approving growl, and Ethan felt a swell of gratitude, not only for the companion who had guided him, but for the unseen hand that had orchestrated this moment. He knelt beside a stack of parchment, untying the brittle ribbon that bound it, revealing maps and journals, the handwriting elegant and careful, describing the lives of those who had come before, their hopes, and their careful planning to preserve something valuable for the right hands. Every turn of the page was a whisper from the past, a gentle urging to carry forward what had been entrusted to him. Ethan could feel the weight of responsibility settling lightly on his shoulders, tempered by the thrill of discovery and the quiet joy that comes from knowing he had been chosen for this moment. Ranger shifted closer, his warm body a reassuring presence, and together they moved deeper into the tunnel, discovering more. The space unfolding like a story written in stone and metal, a narrative of hope, patience, and the enduring bond between a human and his dog. Sunlight from above flickered faintly along the walls as Ethan paused to take it all in, feeling the pulse of the desert and the hidden life beneath, a reminder that even the most forgotten places can hold miracles, and that sometimes the smallest decisions, like purchasing a simple shack for $1, can lead to revelations that change everything. Ethan Cole felt a quiet thrill as he traced the edges of an intricately carved chest at the far end of the tunnel, dust settling in soft clouds with every careful movement, and Ranger stood alert beside him, ears flicking toward every subtle sound, as if reading the heartbeat of the hidden chamber. The light from a small opening above reflected off a series of glass jars and copper coins, sending tiny sparks across the stone walls, and Ethan's fingers lingered over the journals he had just discovered, the ink faded but precise, recounting decades of careful planning and hidden legacies meant for the deserving. Every step deeper into the tunnel revealed objects that told stories, maps of forgotten trails, letters wrapped in cloth, delicate trinkets that had survived countless years, each one echoing the hands that had placed them there and the care taken to protect them from time and wind. The air smelled faintly of desert sand mixed with the metallic tang of ancient coins, carrying a sense of age and patience that seemed almost tangible, and Ethan could feel the weight of history pressing gently on his shoulders, a reminder that he was part of something far larger than himself. Ranger nosed along the ground, discovering a series of small markings on the walls that guided them forward, a trail left by those who had hidden these treasures, as if the tunnel itself had been designed to test and reward those who sought it with a steady heart and clear purpose. Ethan followed, mindful of the quiet, letting his senses guide him, noticing the subtle vibrations beneath his feet, the echo of dripping water somewhere deep in the stone, and the whisper of air moving through narrow cracks that hinted at unseen spaces beyond. He paused before a low archway, shadows stretching long across the stone floor, and his eyes caught the glint of something metallic beneath a pile of carefully stacked crates, an object that seemed to hum with quiet energy, as if eager to be found. As he reached down, pulling aside the layers of dust and time, Ethan felt a rush of connection, a sense that the hands of those who had hidden this had hoped for someone worthy to arrive, someone with patience and respect, someone who could understand and carry forward the legacy without rushing, without fear. Ranger pressed close, his warm body a steady reassurance as Ethan lifted an ancient box and opened it, revealing folded parchments, small gemstones, and a delicate chain of craftsmanship that spoke of lives lived with care, of secrets protected and preserved. And in that moment, the desert above seemed to hold its breath, the sun casting golden streaks through the cracks of the shack floor, highlighting the treasures and lending them a glow that felt almost sacred. Ethan ran his hand over the objects, feeling the texture of history, the smoothness of metal, the faint weight of time itself, and a sense of wonder and humility filled him, the quiet echo of the tunnel around him affirming that he and Ranger were part of a story much larger than themselves, a story of patience rewarded, of faith honored, and of discovery that went far beyond material value into the realm of purpose, connection, and the enduring power of trust. Ethan Cole carefully lifted the final bundle of maps from the chest, the paper brittle and warm from the faint light filtering through the cracks above, and Ranger pressed close, amber eyes scanning every shadow with quiet alertness, as if sensing the significance of each artifact they uncovered. The tunnel walls seemed to hum softly with history, carrying the echoes of hands that had built, arranged, and hidden the treasures decades ago, a silent testament to care and foresight that had withstood the desert sun and the passage of time. Ethan unfolded a large, detailed map, tracing the lines with his finger, noting hidden wells, forgotten trails, and the exact layout of the tunnels below the shack, feeling the meticulous thought of its creators as if it spoke directly to him. The air smelled faintly of dry earth, aged paper, and the subtle tang of metal, a combination that made his pulse quicken with anticipation, yet also grounded him in the reality of discovery. Shadowed alcoves revealed small trinkets, coins, and carefully wrapped packages, each one telling a story of patience, of lives lived with intention, and of secrets kept safe for someone worthy to find them. Ranger shifted slightly, pressing a warm, reassuring body against Ethan's leg, eyes fixed on a narrow passage that led further into the tunnel, a silent insistence to move forward. As Ethan followed, the tunnel opened into a small chamber where sunlight from above flickered across the walls, illuminating a collection of glass jars filled with rare minerals, tiny sculptures, and delicate tools, all preserved in a state that seemed almost magical, untouched by years or dust. He knelt to examine a set of carefully bound journals, each page filled with elegant handwriting detailing experiments, observations, and notes that spoke of hope, resourcefulness, and a desire to leave a gift for the future. The weight of it all settled over him, not as a burden, but as a quiet affirmation that he had arrived at exactly the right place, guided by his own curiosity and the instincts of a loyal companion who had never failed him. He took a deep breath, feeling the stillness of the desert above and the coolness of the earth beneath, the two worlds meeting in this hidden space. And he understood that the value of what they had found was more than material. It was a connection across generations, a whisper of care and foresight, and the confirmation that patience, respect, and attentiveness could uncover the extraordinary. Ranger nudged his hand gently, tail flicking, eyes gleaming with trust and approval, and Ethan smiled. A slow, quiet smile that reflected the depth of wonder and gratitude swelling in his chest as he realized that the desert, the shack, the tunnel, and every careful choice he had made to follow this path had led them here together, to a place of quiet revelation, discovery, and the enduring magic of a secret long hidden, waiting for hands and hearts prepared to understand and cherish it. Ethan Cole rose slowly, letting the quiet hum of the tunnel settle into his awareness, and Ranger padded beside him, tail low but steady, sensing the subtle shifts in the cool, earthy air. Each step deeper revealed more carefully hidden compartments and objects that seemed to whisper their stories, the faint glow of sunlight filtering through tiny cracks above dancing on stacks of coins, glass jars, and bundles of parchment tied with frayed ribbon. Ethan ran his fingers across a weathered box, the smooth metal cool under his touch, noting the intricate etchings that hinted at the hands and minds that had built and preserved this secret over decades. The scent of the desert above mingled with the mustiness of the tunnel, grounding him in the present even as he felt the weight of history pressing softly around him. Ranger's ears twitched as he paused near a narrow opening, nudging Ethan gently forward, and together they moved into a small chamber lined with old chests and carefully stored artifacts, each one catching the light in a way that made them sparkle faintly, as if celebrating their rediscovery. Ethan's eyes traced the lines of old maps pinned to the walls, faded ink describing trails, wells, and hidden rooms, the meticulous planning of their creator evident in every careful stroke. He took a deep breath, feeling gratitude for the patience and foresight that had allowed these treasures to remain untouched, and for the loyal companion at his side whose instincts had guided him unerringly through the shadowed passages. Dust swirled gently in the narrow beams of light, settling over delicate objects that seemed impossibly preserved, and Ethan felt a sense of reverence for the hands that had hidden them, for the careful thought and intention that had protected this legacy for so long. Ranger let out a soft, approving whine, and Ethan smiled quietly, the sound of his companion a grounding force amidst the extraordinary sights surrounding them. He knelt to examine a small, leather-bound journal, opening it carefully to reveal pages filled with elegant handwriting, detailing observations, stories, and instructions left for whoever might someday uncover this hidden world. The words spoke of hope, care, and trust, and Ethan felt a deep connection to those who had come before, understanding that this was not simply treasure, but a message across time, a bond of faith and patience that had waited to be honored. As he rose, stacking the items with careful hands, the tunnel seemed to hum softly with approval, the air carrying a gentle warmth, a reminder that moments of discovery are not only about what is found, but about the understanding and respect brought to it, and that the quiet partnership between a man and his dog can turn an ordinary day into an encounter with something timeless and deeply meaningful. Ethan Cole adjusted his backpack, feeling the weight of the journals and trinkets he had gathered, and Ranger nudged his side gently, amber eyes flicking to the faint beam of light leading deeper into the tunnel, urging them forward. The chamber opened into a larger cavern, its walls etched with faint carvings and symbols that caught the light in subtle glimmers, telling stories of the desert above and the hands that had hidden these treasures long ago. Each step stirred a soft cloud of dust, carrying the scent of dry earth and aged paper, mingling with the faint metallic tang of coins and delicate tools arranged meticulously along low stone shelves. Ethan traced the carvings with careful fingers, feeling the grooves and imagining the careful precision of those who had created them, a connection bridging decades and lives unknown to him. Ranger pressed forward, nose to the ground, guiding Ethan toward a narrow corridor that led to a sunlit opening far ahead, the glow illuminating scattered jars of minerals, bundles of letters, and small handcrafted objects that seemed to shimmer with quiet energy. Ethan knelt beside a low chest, lifting the lid with reverent care, revealing a collection of maps, sketches, and documents that detailed hidden wells, pathways, and the layout of secret tunnels intertwined beneath the shack, the meticulous planning and foresight evident in every careful line. He ran his hands over the pages, feeling a sense of wonder and humility, the tangible link to the past filling him with quiet awe, and the knowledge that patience and attentiveness had brought him to this moment. Ranger circled the chamber, ears flicking at every whisper of air, tail low but steady, sensing the harmony between the treasures and the explorer who had found them. Sunlight flickered through small cracks in the tunnel roof, casting golden stripes across stone floors and illuminating the delicate sheen of coins, the glimmer of glass jars, and the soft patina of aged metal objects, highlighting the care and intention of those who had hidden them. Ethan carefully repositioned the objects, aligning them as they might have been decades ago, feeling the rhythm of the space, the quiet pulse of history, and the continuity of care that had preserved this hidden trove. Each breath he took was infused with reverence and curiosity, the knowledge that discovery was not simply the act of finding, but of understanding and respecting the stories contained within, and that the bond with Ranger, steadfast and intuitive, made the moment complete. The air was still, save for the faint sound of shifting dust and the soft echo of footsteps, yet the chamber seemed alive with the energy of countless hands that had once moved within it, guiding and protecting, and Ethan felt the weight and gift of that history, the quiet miracle of arriving exactly where he was meant to be, in the perfect balance of patience, curiosity, and unwavering companionship. Ethan Cole paused in the tunnel, the golden light from above stretching across the stone floor and casting long shadows that danced gently along the walls, and Ranger stood at his side, tail low, ears alert, his amber eyes scanning every corner for hints of the path ahead. The air carried the faint scent of dry earth mixed with aged paper and polished metal, a combination that grounded Ethan even as the wonders around him threatened to overwhelm his senses. Each step forward revealed more hidden alcoves, small shelves holding carefully wrapped bundles and jars filled with glimmering objects that caught the light and reflected it in subtle sparks, as if celebrating their rediscovery. Ethan traced his fingers over the edges of a carved chest, feeling the cool smoothness of metal and the slight roughness of worn wood, appreciating the care taken by hands long gone. He bent down to examine a set of journals bound with leather, the ink faded but elegant, describing the lives of those who had hidden these treasures and the care with which they had prepared each item for eventual discovery. Ranger nudged his leg gently, reminding him of the steady companionship that had guided him through the shadows, and Ethan felt a surge of gratitude for the silent guidance and trust of his loyal dog. Sunlight flickered across a wall lined with maps and schematics, revealing hidden tunnels, secret wells, and passages that wove beneath the desert in an intricate network, and Ethan marveled at the foresight and meticulous planning that had gone into the creation of this hidden sanctuary. Dust swirled in the soft beams of light, settling on delicate artifacts, coins, and papers, each item whispering stories of patience, foresight, and intention, and Ethan listened, sensing the rhythm of lives long past as it mingled with his own heartbeat. He lifted a small bundle carefully, unwrapping it to reveal a series of tools, some polished and precise, others worn from decades of use, all preserved with extraordinary care, and he understood that these objects were more than possessions. They were symbols of human ingenuity, dedication, and trust extended across time. Ranger moved through the space with quiet assurance, alert to every sound, sniffing along the edges of the walls, guiding Ethan toward a narrow passage that led deeper into the heart of the hidden chamber, where faint glimmers hinted at more treasures waiting to be uncovered. Ethan followed, aware of the weight of discovery and the responsibility that accompanied it, feeling the pulse of the desert above and the secret world beneath, and realizing that this journey, shared with a faithful companion, was teaching him about patience, observation, and the profound satisfaction of uncovering what had been carefully preserved for those willing to respect it. The quiet of the tunnel seemed alive with energy, the soft hum of history and anticipation enveloping them, and Ethan felt a deep connection to the unseen hands that had hidden these wonders, a recognition that the past, present, and future converged in this singular, extraordinary moment, made all the more meaningful by the steady presence of Ranger at his side, a reminder that trust, loyalty, and curiosity can illuminate even the most hidden corners of the world. Ethan Cole stepped carefully into a wider chamber, the walls rising higher than any previous section of the tunnel, etched with faint, elegant patterns that caught the stray beams of sunlight and painted the space with subtle glimmers, and Ranger moved alongside him, paws clicking softly against the stone floor, ears flicking at every whisper of movement, and tail low but steady. The air was thick with the scent of aged wood, cool stone, and the faint metallic tang of long-forgotten coins, carrying a quiet reminder of the passage of time and the hands that had carefully preserved each object within this hidden sanctuary. Ethan's eyes roamed over rows of shelves filled with jars of polished stones, bundles of parchments, delicate tools, and small handcrafted objects, each one reflecting meticulous thought and the quiet dedication of those who had hidden them, and he felt the pulse of history moving through the space, a rhythm that seemed to echo in his chest. He bent down to examine a small box covered with dust, carefully brushing it away to reveal a set of intricately designed instruments and charts, the craftsmanship remarkable and precise, a testament to patience and skill long past. Ranger nudged him forward, guiding him to a narrow passage illuminated by slivers of sunlight that fell from above, and as Ethan followed, he discovered a series of maps pinned to the walls, faded but legible, showing hidden wells, secret routes, and additional chambers he had not yet explored, each line of Inca connection to a mind that had planned for the future with extraordinary foresight. Dust motes danced in the light, settling gently over coins, manuscripts, and trinkets, the soft hush of the tunnel broken only by the quiet movement of his own steps and Ranger's careful patting. Ethan carefully lifted a bundle of letters tied with a frayed ribbon, opening them to reveal elegant, deliberate handwriting detailing observations, stories, and instructions left for someone patient and perceptive enough to discover them, and he felt a profound sense of respect for the lives that had safeguarded these treasures. Ranger circled him, tail flicking, eyes attentive to the faintest changes in air or sound, a constant reminder of the trust and bond they shared as companions exploring this secret world together. Sunlight flickered across a cluster of glass jars, each filled with minerals or delicate artifacts, sending tiny reflections across the walls and floor, and Ethan felt a quiet thrill at the beauty and care of the hidden trove, recognizing that every object, every map, and every piece of paper represented intention, legacy, and hope preserved across decades. He placed the items carefully back on the shelves, noting their arrangement and imagining the thoughtful planning that had guided their placement, and as he rose, he looked at Ranger with a sense of awe and gratitude. understanding that the tunnel, the treasures, and the journey they had undertaken together embodied not only discovery, but patience, respect, and the quiet wonder of uncovering something extraordinary that had waited for them to arrive exactly when they were meant to. Ethan Cole slowly climbed the gentle slope leading out of the tunnel, sunlight spilling across the desert floor in warm, golden streams, and Ranger walked faithfully beside him, tail low and steady, eyes alert to every ripple of movement in the sand. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of dry earth and distant sagebrush, and Ethan felt the weight of the hidden treasures in his pack, the journals and artifacts telling stories of hands long gone and careful planning that had preserved them for someone like him. He paused on a small ridge, looking back at the shack that had seemed so ordinary just hours before, now imbued with the quiet magic of discovery, its peeling wood and warped boards transformed in his mind into a gateway to history and wonder. Ranger let out a soft bark, eyes fixed on a shimmer in the distance, and Ethan followed the line of sight to a faint trail of light reflecting off a buried jar left at the entrance, as if the tunnel itself were bidding him respect and farewell. The desert wind whispered around them, lifting tiny grains of sand into swirling patterns that caught the sunlight like sparkling dust, and Ethan felt a surge of gratitude for the patience that had guided him through each hidden chamber and for the faithful companion who had never faltered in his intuition or loyalty. He knelt briefly, brushing his hand over a small pile of coins and artifacts left behind for preservation, sensing the careful intention that had gone into their placement, and understood that the journey had been as much about learning patience, trust, and observation as it had been about uncovering material treasures. Ranger circled him, paws stirring up tiny clouds of dust, tail flicking, eyes gleaming, a living reminder of guidance and companionship that had carried him through every shadowed corridor. Ethan's gaze shifted to the horizon, where the desert stretched endlessly, the sunlight casting long shadows across dunes and rocks, the warm light reflecting off the shack and the small outcroppings of stone, and he felt a quiet satisfaction settle over him, a calm clarity that only comes after the uncovering of something profound. Every step back toward the shack seemed lighter, filled with awareness of the desert's vastness and the intimate spaces hidden beneath it, and Ethan realized that the true treasure was not only the artifacts and gold, but the lessons of observation, patience, and respect for history that had been gifted to him. The wind carried soft, almost musical whispers, rustling through sparse desert foliage, and Ethan inhaled deeply, the scent of sun-baked sand and distant blooms mingling with the earthy tang of the tunnel left behind. Ranger brushed against his leg, a gentle nudge affirming their shared journey, and together they paused at the edge of the ridge, looking down at the shack, the tunnel entrance now quiet and still, its secrets safe once more, and Ethan felt the extraordinary peace of knowing that discovery is a journey as much of the heart and mind as of the hands, and that loyalty, patience, and careful attention can reveal wonders hidden in plain sight, waiting for those willing to notice, understand, and cherish them. Ethan Cole stepped fully into the desert sunlight, the tunnel behind him now quiet and still, as if holding its breath in reverence for the secrets it had revealed, and Ranger moved alongside him, paws crunching softly against the warm sand, tail low but steady, ears alert to the shifting patterns of wind and light. The golden rays illuminated the shack and the surrounding dunes, casting long shadows that stretched across the landscape like gentle fingers of time, and Ethan felt a deep, steady sense of calm settle over him, the weight of discovery balanced by the quiet presence of his loyal companion. He adjusted his backpack, feeling the reassuring weight of the journals, maps, and artifacts, each one a testament to lives lived with care, patience, and purpose, and he understood that the true value of this journey lay not in the material treasures, but in the lessons imparted. By every careful step, every observation, every moment of trust in his instincts and in Ranger. The desert air was dry and warm, carrying the faint scent of sagebrush and sun-baked earth, and Ethan inhaled deeply, letting the sounds of distant winds, rustling sand, and the subtle creaks of the shack mingle with the pulse of his own heartbeat, grounding him in the present even as the past whispered through the objects he carried. Ranger nudged his side gently, amber eyes meeting Ethan's with the quiet reassurance of understanding, and Ethan smiled, the warmth of connection spreading through him, knowing that this partnership had guided him through every hidden passage, every shadowed corner, and every moment of uncertainty. Sunlight danced across the surfaces of the objects he had uncovered, highlighting the intricate details of old coins, carefully bound journals, and delicate tools that had survived decades, and Ethan traced their edges with reverence, imagining the hands that had placed them here, the thoughtfulness and patience that had preserved them for exactly this moment. He knelt briefly, brushing the sand from a small chest, feeling the cool smoothness of its metal, the faint engravings telling a story of hope and intention, and he realized that discovery was as much about respect, observation, and gratitude as it was about finding the hidden. Ranger shifted beside him, alert and steady, and Ethan felt the comforting rhythm of his loyal companion's presence as he stood, taking in the vast expanse of desert before him. The shack behind him now a monument to quiet resilience, patience, and the wonder of what can be found when one looks carefully and thoughtfully. Every step forward felt deliberate and meaningful, the interplay of shadow and light on the dunes, the whisper of wind, and the silent encouragement of Ranger creating a sense of harmony that filled Ethan with quiet awe. As he moved toward the edge of the ridge, he looked down at the shack and the hidden world beneath it, feeling a profound understanding that some of the most extraordinary discoveries are not about what is uncovered, but about the patience, loyalty, and careful attention that lead to their revelation, and that the journey itself, shared with a steadfast companion, can transform the ordinary into something deeply remarkable and enduring. Ethan Cole stood at the edge of the desert plateau, the sun dipping lower in the sky, casting long, warm shadows across the dunes, and Ranger rested at his side, ears alert and eyes scanning the horizon, their shared silence filled with the weight and wonder of what they had uncovered below. The desert wind stirred the grains of sand into gentle, swirling patterns, carrying the faint scent of sage and earth, and Ethan ran his hand across the strap of his backpack, feeling the familiar weight of the journals, maps, and delicate artifacts that now held stories of lives long past and careful planning preserved across decades. Every object, every coin, every carefully bound page carried a sense of intention and hope, and Ethan marveled at the thoughtfulness of those who had hidden them, understanding that their foresight had led him to this precise moment of discovery. Ranger nudged his leg gently, a reminder of the trust and guidance that had led them through each shadowed corridor and hidden chamber, and Ethan felt a swell of gratitude for the quiet partnership that had made such revelations possible. The shack below seemed to glow in the fading light, ordinary at first glance, yet transformed in his mind into a gateway between the past and present, a silent testament to patience, diligence, and the enduring spirit of those who had lived before. He knelt briefly, brushing a layer of sand from a cluster of coins and maps, feeling the smooth surfaces under his fingertips and imagining the hands that had carefully placed them in secrecy, preserving their legacy for someone worthy to find. The wind whispered through the sparse desert vegetation, carrying a soft, musical cadence that seemed to celebrate the journey, and Ethan inhaled deeply, the warmth of the setting sun and the cool tang of the earth mingling in a comforting embrace. Ranger circled him slowly, tail flicking, eyes bright with quiet awareness, reinforcing the silent communication and shared trust that had guided them to this point. Ethan glanced toward the horizon, where the sky met the endless dunes, a gradient of orange and gold reflecting the gentle fading light, and he felt a profound sense of connection, not just to the treasures and secrets he had discovered, but to the larger rhythm of time and history that had allowed such moments to exist. He straightened, shoulders relaxed, heart steady, realizing that the journey had been about more than discovery. It had been a lesson in patience, observation, trust, and the quiet magic of uncovering something long hidden. The desert around him seemed to exhale in approval, the sun's last rays glinting across the shack and the subtle contours of the dunes, highlighting the extraordinary nature of ordinary moments when met with careful attention and loyalty. Ethan placed his hand on Ranger's head, feeling the warmth and steady reassurance of his companion, and together they watched the sun lower beyond the horizon, the silence between them filled with understanding, gratitude, and the quiet, enduring joy of having witnessed a secret preserved through time and revealed through patience and unwavering companionship. Ethan Cole sank onto a flat rock overlooking the desert, the warm glow of the setting sun painting the sand in shades of amber and gold, and Ranger lay beside him, head resting on his paws, ears twitching occasionally as he listened to the faint hum of the wind moving across the dunes. Ethan unfolded one of the journals he had retrieved, the delicate pages filled with careful, elegant handwriting that detailed the history of the hidden tunnel, the placement of the treasures, and the intentions of those who had safeguarded them decades ago. Each line conveyed a sense of purpose, of hope, and of a quiet belief that someone patient and attentive would one day arrive to honor what had been preserved. He traced the ink with his fingers, feeling the weight of generations of care and forethought, and understood that the journey had been as much about learning respect, observation, and patience as it had been about discovery. Ranger shifted slightly, nudging Ethan gently with his nose, and the warmth of the dog's body reminded him that he was not alone, that companionship and trust had guided him through every shadowed corridor and hidden chamber. The desert air was dry and fragrant with sage, the sound of distant birds carried faintly on the wind, and Ethan allowed himself to feel the quiet satisfaction that comes from understanding a story that has been waiting to be told. He glanced down at the shack below, its simple structure softened by the slanting light, and for the first time he saw it not as a weathered building, but as a guardian of secrets, a monument to care and patience that had endured through time. Ranger lifted his head, ears alert, and Ethan smiled softly, realizing that the bond between them had been strengthened by the journey, each step guided by intuition, trust, and shared attention to the subtle signals of the world around them. He closed the journal and set it beside him, allowing his gaze to sweep over the desert, the dunes stretching endlessly, their shadows deepening as the sun sank further. Dust swirled in small eddies around the rocks and the shack, catching the last light in tiny sparks, and Ethan felt a quiet connection to everything: the wind, the earth, the light, the shadows, and the hidden history they had uncovered. Ranger lifted his head and looked toward the horizon, amber eyes reflecting the fading glow, and Ethan followed the gaze, sensing that they were witnessing not only the end of a day, but the culmination of a journey that had been guided by patience, attentiveness, and loyalty. The silence was profound, filled with the weight of discovery, the resonance of lives long past, and the comforting presence of a companion who had never wavered. Ethan drew a slow breath, feeling the warmth of the desert sun on his face, the coolness of the stone beneath him, and the steady presence of Ranger at his side, and in that moment, he understood that the true reward of their journey was the quiet, enduring joy of having honored the care and foresight of those who had hidden the treasures, the connection forged through trust and loyalty, and the profound awareness that some of the most extraordinary miracles are not shouted or displayed, but quietly revealed to those willing to walk patiently, observe carefully, and cherish every subtle signal along the way. Ethan Cole stood atop a small rise overlooking the desert, the sun now dipping below the horizon, painting the sky in deep oranges and purples that reflected across the rolling dunes, and Ranger rested faithfully at his side, ears alert, amber eyes catching the fading light with quiet awareness. The desert seemed to breathe around them, carrying the scent of sun-warmed sand and distant sagebrush, and Ethan felt the culmination of their journey settle gently over his shoulders, a mixture of awe, gratitude, and quiet joy. The shack below, once weathered and unassuming, now glowed with the memory of discovery, its simple structure housing a labyrinth of secrets that had revealed themselves through patience, observation, and trust. Ethan knelt briefly, letting his fingers brush over the warm, smooth stones beneath him, feeling the pulse of the desert and the echo of the hidden chambers beneath, understanding that every step, every choice, and every careful observation had led him to this profound moment of connection with history and the land itself. Ranger nudged him lightly, a subtle reminder of the companionship and loyalty that had guided him through every shadowed corridor, every dusty passage, and every delicate treasure, and Ethan smiled, the bond between them deepening with each heartbeat. The wind whispered softly across the dunes, carrying a subtle hum of time and memory, and Ethan closed his eyes, taking in the harmony of light, shadow, and the quiet stillness of the desert, feeling as if he had become a part of the story that had unfolded beneath the shack, a story of care, foresight, and faith preserved across decades. He opened a journal, flipping gently through the pages filled with elegant handwriting and detailed observations, feeling the weight of the legacy entrusted to him, and realizing that discovery was as much about understanding and honoring the past as it was about witnessing the tangible treasures. The colors of the sunset deepened, casting long shadows across the dunes, the warm hues mingling with the cool violet of encroaching twilight, and Ethan took a slow, deliberate breath, appreciating the silence, the quiet presence of Ranger, and the sense of accomplishment that came from patience, curiosity, and respect for the hidden world. He rose, feeling the soft grit of sand beneath his boots, and gazed toward the horizon, a sense of peace and purpose washing over him, knowing that the extraordinary had been revealed not merely through luck, but through careful attention, loyalty, and the willingness to observe and cherish every detail along the journey. Ranger pressed close, warmth and trust radiating in his posture, and Ethan placed a hand on his companion's head, feeling the quiet reassurance of shared understanding, the profound lesson of patience rewarded, and the enduring reminder that some of the most meaningful discoveries in life are those quietly preserved, patiently uncovered, and deeply felt, leaving a lasting imprint of wonder, connection, and the gentle power of miracles in the everyday.